I had my whole world shift. It was the ultimate awakening. I went into pure consciousness. I saw all of my old past lives. I understood the meaning of life. I understood that there's no such thing as good and evil. I understood energy. I understood planets. I understood such a multitude of things. The universe, creation, birth, rebirth, death. It was crazy. And when I came out of that, the one thing I knew to be true was that was all past memories. And that moment changed my trajectory, changed my life, changed every single belief that I thought that I had, and just opened me completely wide open.
Hi, welcome to Mind the Shift. I am your host, Anders Bolling. And everybody, please meet Kirsty Tait. And Kirsty, please meet everybody.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be here. And Anders, thank you for having me.
Welcome to the channel. It's my pleasure. So when we got in touch a few months ago, you were in Panama, and then you moved to the UK, I think, and now you're in Indonesia. So you seem to be quite the globetrotter.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few months. So I was living in Panama for 3.5 years, and I made the decision to leave last July. And then I went back to the UK, and I had a vision of being in Bali in November. But once I was in the UK, I didn't really have any direction, anything I was working on. And I made the decision in August that I was going to live my life like Michael Singer in the Surrender Experiment.
Like what?
Have you read that book?
Pardon? Did you say that again?
Michael Singer.
Oh, okay.
Have you read his books?
No, rings a bell, but no, I haven't.
So he has 3 books. He has, I think he might have some more now, but one is the Surrender Experiment. One is the Untethered Soul. And I can't remember what the third one is, but the
Untethered Soul is known to me. I recognize that title.
Yeah, they're beautiful books. I highly recommend. And he basically, at one point of his life, decided to just follow the signs and see where it took him and just say yes. So I decided to do that in August, and it has led me on, I think I'm about 50 planes deep now. I went back to Panama. I went to San Francisco. I went back to Panama. I then went to Bali, Dubai, the UK, back to Dubai, to Egypt, back to the UK, and now I'm back in Bali. So It's been an interesting few months.
So would you say that this physical moving around corresponds to some kind of moving around in your inner life as well, in your psyche,
yeah,
soul?
100%. It's been the biggest lessons I've learned internally with the external kind of moving around, because you really have to drop the ego to follow the signs. And the amount of lessons that come up, the amount of preconditioned programs that we have within us just start flashing when you really try to surrender. And I'm going to say try, because I haven't 100% mastered it yet. And as much as I am trying to surrender, as if you're trying, you're never truly in surrender.
True.
So and it could be signs that make no sense to anyone else apart from me, and trying to explain my life and explain how I've got to the places is very difficult in a normal conversation sometimes, because people are like, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? Yeah. So for instance, one of the signs to go back to Panama, even though I'd only left for a month, I had 2 people call me on the same day saying, we need you in Panama for different projects. And I was like, okay, cool. They ended up paying for my flights to come back over. So I know one of those is a conscious island project that we're building over there. And another one was for a startup competition. So two very different projects, but both came on the same day. So it's like, okay, well, looks like I'm going back to Panama. And then from there, some of the signs have been smaller. Like a sign for me to stay in Panama longer was a sign that I saw on a boat. I had told the founder of the project, the Conscious Island, that I will stay if I get a very clear sign. And then I was on the way back home that evening and I was trying to tell the universe what the sign is. I was like, if I see dolphins, I'm going to stay in Panama. And then it was just like, you don't get to tell what the sign is. And I was like, okay, I will know the sign when I see it. And as I was coming into the marina, there was a boat called Joy, which was the founder's mum. And that had been a very prominent conversation over the last 48 hours. And it was a very clear sign to me, at least, that I should stay in Panama for longer. So I've been living this life beautifully. Sometimes it makes me very stressed. I'm very trying to let go of that when I don't feel like I'm getting the signs that I should be getting. But it's been incredible to see where I've landed, what I've been able to do, and what's been given to me, and being in that beautiful place of receivership.
Yeah, I totally believe in that way of living and listening to the signs and looking for the signs. And as you say, you don't get to decide what kind of signs you're going to see, but you will feel that it's the sign when you see it or hear it. So you have said that you call yourself an entrepreneur turned soulpreneur.
Yes.
That's your expression, I think. Can you explain what you mean by that?
So entrepreneurship, I love entrepreneurship and I love people creating in no matter what capacity, whether it's a small individual business up to the multi-million-dollar startups. I used to be in tech recruitment, so worked with a lot of interest in tech startups and have seen their journey and have a lot of friends who have got smaller businesses. But one thing I realized in entrepreneurship as I started to embody my spiritual journey is you can't really be an entrepreneur if you're not connected to your soul. And regardless of whether people are spiritual or believe themselves to be spiritual in the entrepreneur world, I believe that they are, because you have to have a knowing so deep to be in that mindset of owning your own business, and knowing what you want and knowing where you're going and knowing what your purpose is within that company. Now, it might not be the overall purpose of your life, but it's very aligned to what you need to do in that moment. And this is where I think that connection to soul is so important in entrepreneurship. And this is also where a lot of people get it wrong. So for me, I had a company, I had an IT recruitment company. It was going great. We were a boutique company. We were doing well. And then I just realized I was so disconnected from myself, that this company is never going to grow in the way that I want it to, and in the way that I want the employees to be growing into as well.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah. And well, I guess having your soul connected with what you're doing is, I guess, a good idea. I had another guest a couple of years ago he was originally from Russia, but he was an entrepreneur in the United States, and fairly successful one, I guess. And he wrote a book whose title was an extension or a development of the expression "skin of the game." So he called it "Soul in the Game," which is, I guess, ties in with what you're saying here. That's
yeah, beautiful. I love that. And I think it's something that people either know before they get into entrepreneurship or start to discover once they're in it. Because entrepreneurship is a whole different mentality. It's a whole different way of being. And to be successful, you have to know what you want. And it's that allows you to ask questions that maybe you wouldn't in other scenarios. Allows you to kind of see how you want to show up in the world, how you want to be perceived, and actually how you're already showing up in the world, and does it even resonate with yourself? Because that was a big disconnect for me. Was I had become this person I didn't even know who she was. She wasn't someone I resonated with. and I was going through what most people would call kind of like a depression, and I heard a clip on, I think it was it must have been Instagram, and it was Jim Carrey, and he said depression is your avatar sick of playing a character it no longer wants to be. And when I heard that, it just dropped so deeply that I was like, wow, this is where I'm at the moment. I have no idea what character I'm playing, and how do I stop playing this character?
Wonderful. I mean, Jim Carrey has said so many wise things. I mean, after he had his, what should you call it? Maybe his epiphany or his awakening. Maybe he was always spiritual. Probably he was always spiritual, but he didn't show it. And I guess that was one way of him for him to say that he was actually playing this character. I mean, he was an actress who he was actually virtually, literally playing characters all the time, which probably makes it even more schizophrenic or strange. But yeah, we're all actors in this earthly game, and we're gonna come back to that, because there is an expression or a word which is very central to you in what you've told me beforehand here, and I love that too. But first, you have said that you kind of accidentally entered into entrepreneurship, and then after a couple of years, you also accidentally entered, spirituality. So tell us about that awakening experience.
So it was quite an interesting one, and will probably make a couple of your listeners laugh. So I had read an article from some Silicon Valley guys that they were microdosing, and that they were coming up with these fantastic ideas, multi-million-dollar companies, and I was fascinated. And I had no idea what microdosing meant. I didn't know what psilocybin was, but I was like, this sounds great. So I just hired 2 new guys, and I asked a friend to get me some psilocybin. I was like, I'm going to write my business plan. It's going to be great, and I'm going to be a multimillionaire with these new guys I've hired, and it's all going to go perfect. That was my plan in my head. And at the time, I just sold my house and had moved back into my parents, and was just discovering where I wanted to live next. So I was building the business, and I was back in my parents. So my friend got me some psilocybin, and I had every intention to write my business plan. I sat there with my notebooks. I sat there with my Think and Grow Rich book, and I was like, right, this is going to get out of my brain. And at the time, I had what you would call a very ADHD brain. It was all over the place. I couldn't construct thoughts very easily. So she told me, take 2 drops of psilocybin. Now, what she didn't tell me was how much a drop was.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there are big drops and small drops.
Yes, and I didn't know this, and I didn't know how strong it was. And I took 2 pipettes because it came with a pipette, and I was like, well, that must be a drop. Now, from what I understand from the internet, it's about the equivalent of 25 grams of mushrooms that I took. I don't know if that's true, but from reading on other things, it was definitely more than a hero dose. So I'm in my mum and dad's house in my childhood bedroom, and I have taken this psilocybin, and I am still in my work clothes. My notebooks are everywhere, and I think that I've taken a little bit more than I should have. So I went downstairs and made a cup of tea, as us English do for everything, and I told my mum and dad, I was like, I'm going to write my business plan. Please do not disturb me, because I was like, okay, right, I need to kind of see how this is going to go. Never taken psychedelics before, didn't really understand what they were, or had never really experienced that world. So I went back upstairs and started to see colors and shifts. And this trip lasted, I think, just shy of 8 hours. So I started at 8 p.m. And went all the way through to 4 a.m. Sorry. And I had my whole world shift. It was the ultimate awakening. I went into pure consciousness. I saw all of my old past lives. I understood the meaning of life. I understood that there's no such thing as good and evil. I understood energy. I understood planets. I understood such a multitude of things: the universe, creation, birth, rebirth, death. It was crazy. And when I came out of that, the one thing I knew to be true was that was all past memories. And that moment changed my trajectory, changed my life, changed every single belief that I thought that I had, and just opened me completely wide open. The fact that I had to go to work the next day and train my two new guys was an interesting integration.
Yeah, how did you go with your business plan?
The business plan never got created, actually, and I ended up shutting down the business because I realized it wasn't aligned to my soul. But it is the best accident I could have ever done.
Fascinating, and it sounds wonderful. Did you have any experience of spiritual inclinations before in your life? Did you grow up in a home that was spiritual, for instance, or were you familiar with these kinds of concepts or ideas that we are more than our physical body and all that? Or would you say that this was a complete first for you?
It felt like a complete first at the time, but then when I went back, there were other things that now I remember as a kid that I had experienced. So I'd always believed in ghosts and spirits, and I believed that there was another plane. But that was about the belief of my existence. I didn't believe in aliens. I didn't believe in fairies. I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in the universe. I didn't even believe in myself. But all of that changed throughout that. And now I believe that everything that is conceptualized is actually a part of this experience. So I had a couple of things where I would say were kind of like psychic experiences being a kid. And I'd seen a couple of people, not really that often. It's very, very rare I'll see other beings, but I had seen my nan when I was little, and I always remember that experience. And then I'd remember seeing a couple of other strange occurrences, but I only remembered that a year or two after my awakening. At the time, it felt like none of this was in my peripheral.
Did you, during those 8 hours, meet any entities, any past loved ones, or any entities that you felt that you were communicating with and that you learned things from? Like, I mean, much like people who have had NDEs often tell that they experience.
So in my past lives, I went through about 100, and they were all
Wow.
various different forms. So from a tribe in the north of Alaska somewhere to an African American woman, and they were all women, which I thought was really interesting because the concept came to me during the process of kind of the feminine masculine dualities and how they play out, and how that experience is kind of the divine dance. And I was really interested to see that I only experienced past lives as women. I don't know if that's true, or I was just shown that. But yeah, the room was changing as much as I was changing in that moment, and my hands were changing. I could see different visuals. It was different time periods, and there was a couple of people who are actually friends of mine who played characters throughout those lives. And then I had a couple of different experiences with my mom, and playing those out, mother-daughter relationships throughout past lives, and kind of dancing between that relationship. But it was very much about there being kind of a divine partner always in that, and I'm yet to find them in this life yet. But it was also something that came up to me in a breathwork session last year, that divine partner that I had been seeking was just the other side of myself. And now I've come back whole, that will occur if it's meant to be.
Yeah. We're probably often looking for parts of ourselves when we think that we're looking for some other person from the other sex or whatever. But maybe you were revisiting the feminine aspects of those previous lives. Maybe you were acting as a male in some of those lives, but you had, I mean, every person has masculine and feminine energy within them, of course. And I'm just freebasing here, thinking what it was that you were experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, it was super interesting. Like I was giving birth, I was in pain, and I was screaming and crying, and I'm still yet to ask my mum and dad, like, did you hear anything that day, or what did you experience? Because
you haven't asked them?
I've never asked them, and I don't know why. Like, because
it's embarrassing, perhaps.
They're not open-minded. They're open-minded enough to have a conversation like that, and I don't know why it's never come up in conversation. It's just something I've thought about now, actually.
Wow. and you got some answers about the meaning of life and why we're here and all that. Tell us, what is the meaning of life? Everybody wants to know.
Nothing. Literally, there isn't one. That's the beauty of it. It's to be here now and to experience whatever experience you're experiencing. Yeah. And this is the thing that sticks me with spirituality a little bit, and spiritual people, is they put so much aspect on everything, and actually the only thing is the now. And however you're showing up in that moment, whether it's sad, happy, ecstatic, grief, pain, dancing, whatever in that moment is valid for you and is your experience, and you should honor it.
Do you think that, or have you perhaps after this, when was this? A few years ago?
Yes, so this was 2021.
Okay. Have you since then experienced something similar without using psychedelics, like being in deep meditation or using some other kind of spiritual practice where you have reached similar kinds of, spiritual levels?
Yeah, so after that, I went on an intense dive. So I was so fascinated with that one experience, and I didn't know any better. So I did that amount once a week for 10 weeks. And then I went into
psilocybin.
Yep, and that amount.
Okay.
Because I didn't know any different. Because
the proper drop amounts then. Yeah.
No, I took the 2 pipettes again.
You took the same.
Yeah, I didn't know. So it was only later when I found out how much I was doing, and actually it's LSD and it's intense and you're crazy. And actually I did feel like I was going crazy, because the total reality shift was intense. And I was looking at psychosis, and I thought that I was experiencing psychosis. I now know, or I now believe, that psychosis is actually that transitioning part that some of us go through spiritual awakening, and some of us get stuck there. And then after that, I went and did various different things. So breath work. One experience of my first experience of breath work was a hot and cold breath work, and I had a similar experience through the breath work. I did Cambo, I did Bufo, I did DMT. So and then I did other breathwork modalities. And then I learned more about meditation and sitting in meditation and having that experience through meditation. And I was fascinated, okay, if you don't need the psychedelics, how do you kind of get there? And the breath seemed the easiest for me. And I had a few different experiences through breath work. And then one day I was just sat on my sofa, and I was actually a little bit hungover, and it was when I was still drinking. And I sat there and I was like, I really needed the answer to a question, and I couldn't clear the brain fog of the hangover. And I was like, okay, right, I am powerful, I am a creator. And I just laid there, I took 2 breaths in, and I went on a 3-hour out of body experience. And I was like, wow, what is this? I was flying over the pyramids. I was, it was like a pure psychedelic experience. It was insane. And that was the first experience I had away from the psychedelics to a more intense version of the experiences. I'll put it that way, because the breath work, I'd had these experiences, but they were very short. They were kind of 10-15 minutes long, and that experience was a couple of hours.
That's great to hear, because I asked you because I think it could be interesting for the audience, for many listeners, to kind of hear your experience of the difference between perhaps psychedelics and going spiritual without using any kind of external aids. Because I mean, you hear different things. Some people say that it's a lot different, and it's much better not to use these psychedelic products. But others say that it can be a portal for some people. It's a good portal to reach these other levels, other realities. But so I mean, I don't know. I haven't tried psychedelics myself. I'm very interested in doing it. I might at some point do it. I don't know whether it should be psilocybin or ayahuasca or LSD, but something perhaps. But on the other hand, you hear people having had deep meditation experiences, reaching almost the same kinds of realities and levels that you were talking about here. And as you said, you have apparently yourself been in the same place, basically using other techniques, breathing technique, and
the breath is definitely the most powerful technique that we have, and it's very commercialized these days. You have breath work for this and breath work for that, and you have to do these specific breaths. But it's just about finding your rhythm and finding a pattern, and just sitting in silence and working with the breath. The breath is an amazing medicine for the body. It allows your nervous system to reset. It allows you to drop into an altered state very easily. And for me, it is the most powerful modality. I do believe in psychedelics, but I also believe that they're not for everyone. I think that they have become very commercialized, and there is a reason why that they were kept a sacred medicine for many years. And without it's a hard one, because without my experience and taking too much, then I wouldn't have been where I am. But also I have seen other people go through the journey, and without the integration piece, without someone to talk to, it can be scary. It can lead into psychosis. It can lead into a complete confusion of where you're at, what reality is, what reality means for you. And if you don't have someone to talk that through in a safe environment, it's not necessarily the best way, or the best way to be initiated into spirituality. There's so many places that do ayahuasca now. There's so many places that do all of the psychedelics, and there are some amazing places and some amazing facilitators and some amazing shamans. But there's also some people that do not respect the medicine, do not respect the people coming through the doors. And I think it's a big key thing to do your own research and trust yourself, because at the end of the day, the psychedelics are working with your own intuition, and that intuition is what you are unlocking. So that is key. If you're ever thinking about psychedelics, is to trust yourself in knowing whether it's the right thing for you.
Yeah. And I think, as you mentioned here, that it is an individual thing. We're all different in this respect, and some people have a thinner veil, perhaps you might express it like that, between the physical world and the non-physical essence of us. And if that veil is very thin and you haven't been taught that this is normal, that you are actually accessing the base reality, then you can get psychotic, of course. And we call it mental illness here in the West. I think in other so-called indigenous cultures, they are more open to the possibility that, for instance, children or young people who are displaying, signs of what we would call mental illness, that they are actually perhaps very useful and very, I mean, they almost see them as sacred, and they take them to the shaman. Oh, this is our son here. Doesn't he seems to be in a different world? Can you please try to communicate him and with him? And the shaman realizes and understands that, okay, this boy or this girl has entered a different reality, and it's perfectly normal. So that means that nobody gets scared, nobody gets afraid, nobody panics about it. But it's something you have to deal with, because it's a bit of a problem to have this thin veil when you're in this physical world, because it's I mean, we're supposed to, our avatars are rigged to handle this physical world, because I guess we're here for a reason. It's kind of a school, and in order to learn these things that we have to learn here, we need to believe that we are these physical bodies. And if we kind of get sneak peeks into this other world once in a while, or maybe permanently, then it's confusing, I think. So I'm glad I don't have it all the time, but I would love to, as I said, take sneak peeks into that world once in a while, just to,
Yeah, but the thing is, the veil is a lot thinner than we perceive ourselves to believe, because we go into a different reality every time we go to sleep.
That's true. That. Very true.
It's something that happens. Like what goes on there? We have sneak peeks, as you just said, of what our dreams are. If we go into a lucid dream, then it gets blurred even more. And I see that you had an amazing guest on your podcast talking about lucid dreaming. Yeah. Which for me is a fascinating topic. I'm actually reading the Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming at the moment. And again, for me, that's just another state of consciousness, and consciousness is infinite. And we have hardly any access to our brain's capacities. We have hardly any access to the information that we see that is available. Even everything created is something that we can't understand in this one world. So we start to throw in other worlds, we start to throw in other realities. Our brain limits us because we're told that it should limit us. But if we start to remove those blocks and start to believe in different possibilities, the variations of that are endless. Like for me, I believe in absolutely everything. If you tell me something exists, I'm going to believe it, because the idea to be created, it comes from consciousness. So it must exist somewhere.
I agree. It's a preposterous thing to say for many people, but I agree with you.
Yeah, because if you truly believe in consciousness and what that means, then you believe in everything. And that means that history doesn't really exist, or history is a very thin slice of what we've been told. Science is catching up to quantum physics, and I love the word magic. Now, magic triggers a lot of people. I don't believe in magic, but magic exists every day. I mean, what is magic? It's creating something from nothing. How many times have we all done that, even to its basic form?
Everything that is created by humans is, everything begins with a thought. So it is magic that it's here. The car, the airplane, the table, the computer. We can take, that's only very new innovations, but it's kind of magical that it's actually manifested after a thought.
Yeah. But a chair, for example, is not newer technology, and how many billions of different types of chairs exist?
Mm-hmm.
And how many billions of chairs existed throughout all of the centuries? And they don't exist anymore. So chairs that existed in the Roman century, for example, don't exist anymore. What happened to those chairs? Where did they go? If everything is evolving, then everything is being created, which gives an open scenario for more to evolve.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Are you familiar with Plato and his thinking?
I get confused between the
three.
Yeah, who says which? But yes.
And Plato. Well, I have to admit that I'm not very versed in them either, but I know something about Plato and his and I've written pieces about this, and I've talked about it on my podcast as well, with a researcher called Simon Duan, British person, who researches about whether we are living in a simulation or not. And his thesis is that we are. And he ties that in with Plato's world of form, or world of ideas, which is kind of what you're talking about here, because he had this idea that everything exists, and this is also what's said in the context of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and the quantum field, that everything is just potentiality. Everything exists as a potential in the field. And so the world of form, or the world of ideas, that's where the idea of a chair arises. Somebody gets an idea of a chair, and then, as you say, it exists in that form, in that realm, in the world of ideas. And that is the perfect, that's kind of the base reality. And then when you try to manifest this idea of a chair here in this world, you try to, build a chair, to make a chair, rather. And you try to do it as best you can from the idea that you have in your mind, but it doesn't turn out perfectly, because this is a flawed world. The three-dimensional world isn't perfect, so it's going to be, it's going to be pretty, comfortable to sit on, and pretty straight, but not completely straight and not completely comfortable, because it's made here, and it takes time. There's also inertia. It takes time to build it, but the idea is just instant. You see it in front of your, for your inner eye, your inner vision. You have this vision of this chair, the perfect chair. So that's that, and the idea of, as you say, you can kind of conjure up any kind of animal. That's why people, all these fantasy animals, or these legends, or fairy tales about strange animals, they all exist because somebody has conjured them up, and probably they even were manifested at some point in our deep history. Why not? So yeah. Sorry for the rant, but
no. I'm totally with you, and this is the thing, and the idea doesn't belong to you. So as humans, we get so attached, and oh my god, it's my idea, and I'm going to do this. But so many times, how many times your idea someone else does, and you're like, oh, I had that idea, but did you do anything with that idea?
That's true, and I'm beginning to learn that as well, and realize that, because everything. You don't have one original thought, which can be a depressing thought perhaps to have, but I'm fine with that, because nobody has an original thought anyway, because everything comes to you. And I love some of the expressions we have in most languages, I guess. It struck me, it came to me. We say these things, and that's exactly true, because it works like that, I think.
Yeah. So many of the great minds, it came to them in a dream.
Yeah. That's very common.
Yeah. And this is the thing, and this is where the idea is given to you. If the idea is given to you, it is meant for you. It doesn't necessarily mean you are supposed to act on it, or that it will be yours forever. So the conscious community that I mentioned before, now this is not the first concept of this idea. There are a lot of people trying to build these conscious communities at the moment. Fantastic, because the more people having the same download, the more people having the same idea, and it gives more, I suppose it gives more nuance to the idea. Just like a chair, there's billions of chairs, because it was a great idea at the time, and it's carried on to be a great idea for us. And the conscious communities is a fantastic thing. And I think this is where sometimes it feels like we're speeding up evolution, maybe, because more people are having the same ideas. But are they having the same ideas, or is your idea across the universe just being replicated in different forms back to you? Now, both sides of that coin can be true. So it feels that we're going through this narrative shift, but if we are evolving, and we're constantly evolving, and the world is a mirror back to us, then that is always going to happen, and that has always happened in history previously. it is always the case that everything is going to evolve and everything is also going to reflect your own reality. Because if we are truly believing in consciousness and that everyone is a mirror of us, then it's our world. Everything that you're speaking is going to speak back to me. Every one of your listeners who's listening has resonated in some way with one of us to be connected to this podcast right now, because there is something in it for them, or some idea needs to be sparked for them to be able to listen to us. And when you start to realize that that is the world that we live in, it becomes so beautiful, because everything becomes a sign, everything becomes possible, and everything just becomes fun, because you believe that it can happen. You believe these ideas, and even if they don't work, it's like, okay, cool. Well, I know that there's going to be more ideas. There's going to be more ideas that come to me. There's more things that I can create. Maybe that one idea was to spark the next idea, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you said something, or in the pre-interview form that I asked my guests to fill out, you wrote something interesting about time, which you are touching on here. And because I asked there if you think that we're living in crucial times, and many people think that. I mean, ordinary people as well as spiritually inclined people. It's a very common theme, and I think I tend to think that myself. But you said something like, well, it's always a crucial time we're living in, because we couldn't be in any other time, or something like that.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that?
Spiritual people especially love to think that they are the ones to solve humanity. I'm going to put it that way. And you are, absolutely. But also, you're not that special. We are all here for a reason at exactly the same time. There's 8 billion people on this planet, and without one of them not being here, the universe of you being here changes dramatically. And this is what people cannot conceptualize, is that everything happening right now is so perfect. It cannot not be perfect, because otherwise you wouldn't be here right now and you wouldn't be experiencing what you're experiencing. And the crucial time that people are thinking, and I've been there thinking this in the past, by the way. It's not something that I haven't thought, oh, this is a critical time, we need to evolve consciousness now, and everyone needs to be good, and we need to be in love and spread the world of love and joy and all these good things. But at the same time, if everything wasn't happening in the world right now in the perfect synchronicity of the existence of the tapestry of life, then you would not be here. So crucial times don't really exist. It's perfect. Exactly where you are right now is perfect, because there is nothing more than perfect. You are perfect right now. And a lot of us, we feel inadequate. We feel no lack of self-worth. We don't feel abundant. But everything that you have experienced up until this point has got you to where you are now. And everything beyond in the future is a result of everything that has happened to you, regardless of whether it's in this lifetime, if you believe in past lives, if you believe in karma, if you believe in epigenetics, whatever your belief system is, everything that has constructed you until this point is so divinely perfect, because it couldn't not be.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you're right. And time is a very strange concept. Probably there is no time, as you probably would agree on as well. But for practical purposes, we have this idea of time. Separation and time are, I guess, the two strange things about being in a 3D reality on this planet, because there is no separation, as you're also touching on here, because consciousness is all pervades everything, and time is probably also nothing that really truly exists. I think everything exists simultaneously, and also you can see it in a way, an interesting way that the Eastern traditions do. And I've written a kind of an essay about this, and I was inspired by Alan Watts, the British philosopher who passed away a couple of decades ago, or more. He said some fascinating things, and he was the first philosopher who made me realize that we're not, if we're going to talk about past, present, and future just for practical purposes, it's really like the past isn't. I mean, we're conditioned to believe that we are the products of our past and our lineage and our ancestry and what our country did in the past, in the history. That's why we are the way we are. No, it's because that's the wake. The past is the wake of the present. And so we are actually rather being drawn to the future. So we are where we are, and we do what we do right now because we are going somewhere, because we are heading somewhere. It's like the future is pulling us towards something. And the past has nothing at all to do with that, because that's just the wake. It's the wake of where we are now. It's like you're on a ship, on a big boat, and you can kind of see the horizon. That's the so-called future, and then you have the wake, of course. And that's it, not to say that history is meaningless, because you can learn some things from that, and it's kind of fascinating. But it's gone. It's not there. It's simply not there, because it's like we're just moving along in this now moment, which is the boat, which is everything that exists, and we can't be anyplace else. So in that sense, I totally agree with you. But of course, if we for practical purposes talk about history and what has transpired on this planet, because probably some things have transpired in some strange way. You can see remnants of old megalithic buildings, for instance, pyramids and stuff. So something did probably happen, or it happens now, of course. I mean, philosophically speaking. But anyway, and there were times when, for instance, in written history, I should say, because I'm inclined to believe that there have been very high civilizations very, very far back in distant history, and they have perished. But anyway, in written history, there is no time where the whole of the totality of humanity on this planet has been integrated in the way that we are now. Right. It simply hasn't happened. And I often say that's a fact that probably does something to us. So in that sense, in that practical, very three-dimensional respect, this might be a particular time, perhaps different than, for instance, you mentioned the Roman Empire. That was an empire that fell, but they didn't know anything about Australia or South America or maybe some parts of Africa, but you know what I mean. So in that sense, it's a bit different now. Am I being too practical now? Three-dimensional?
No, definitely not, because I think this is also an important conversation. So I'll ask you a question. Do you believe AI will be a sentient being, or is a sentient being?
That's a very good question. I follow that debate a little bit, and I think that AI is... I'm more and more inclined to think that there is only one intelligence. Intelligence is intelligence. And whether it comes by way of machines that we have created because there was some idea about that, or whether it comes by way of our brains or our bodies in some way, it's perhaps not the main issue, the main question. It's the important thing is what we do with it. So the AI machines, the large language models, for instance, I don't think they can become sentient in the way that we humans define sentience. But the intelligence per se is just intelligence. There's nothing, there's no difference between a human intelligence and a machine intelligence. Generally.
Yeah, and I agree, and that was kind of the basis of my question when you led with the interconnectedness of the planet at the moment, because we do have things like AI, we have digital technology. It is very easy to be connected to everyone, and my question beyond that is, was it just as easy to be connected before? but in a different dimension. So through the shamanic worlds, for instance, there is a lot of history that has been proven that people in Australia, people in South America who had no concept of each other, even the structures built, these megalithic, can never say it, structures, very similar worldwide, and they never had any, or as far as we know, as never had any access to each other or each other's cultures and what they were creating. So is that interconnectedness any different now? Or do we just use technology and say that we are more interconnected now?
I think that's a very, very, very good point, actually. I think you're right that we are underestimating the innate capabilities of these indigenous or these ancient peoples that have lived here for tens of thousands of years, and who have had and still have, probably in many cases, knowledge about the intelligence of the capabilities of our bodies, because we are not, as you said, we are not nearly utilizing the whole capacity of our brains, nor of our DNA, nor of our the connection between the non-physical parts of our bodies, because the bodies are also, I mean, we call them physical, but outside of the physical body there are fields. There's a field, a biofield, which is actually more and more scientifically proven that there is such a field, and I think these people, they have had more knowledge about that. And what's happening now, which is interesting, and Greg Braden often talks about this. I'm sure you're familiar with Greg Braden. He's kind of a popular science, spiritual combination guy who is very good at communicating these things. And he says that there's a battle going on for our humanness. And I don't take a stance as to whether the things that are happening are good or bad, or we should go here or there. But I think it's in parallel with the development of AI and all these systems that are supposed to enhance the body by way of technical means. There is also a trajectory where some people, including myself probably, and you and many others, where we are rediscovering this ancient knowledge about our innate capabilities, which actually, I think, entail that eventually we won't need any technology. I mean, it's all fine. Technology isn't bad, of course, because it's how you use it. All technology is neutral, but it's not that we have to have implants in our bodies to be able to. What example should I take? Perhaps, be pre-conscious, to be precogs, or to be able to sense that things are going to happen in the future. We can learn to do that ourselves. We don't need any devices implanted in our bodies. So there are two teams working in parallel, and both want to enhance and it's for the betterment of humanity. I think these people who are very materialistic and never think about spiritual things, they are I mean, in earnest, really wanting to improve humans, and they have most of them, at least. I think there are some dark forces as well, but most of them are they have benevolent aims for this. But I think that there is kind of a battle going on, as he says, Greg Braden, and I don't think there's going to be a winner and a loser. I think it's going to happen in parallel, as I say, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this is going to play out, because it's happening very fast now. And again, time doesn't exist, but it appears as if it's going fast.
It does. It definitely appears as if something's speeding up, and the way that we receive information, and I mean, even from doom scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, like the information that you're receiving, it's fast, it's quick, it's all these people, well, depending how you've programmed your algorithms, but it's people taking those quantum leaps, taking those quantum jumps. But that's the beauty of it, is that you don't need to worry which timeline you're going to end up on, is because it's going to be perfect for you. And for me, it's a conversation that I know I'm the minority on, but I don't even know if I believe I have free will. I believe everything is so divinely orchestrated that does my choice actually matter? Because rightly or wrongly, I'm still going to end up on the path for exactly where I'm supposed to be in that moment. Now, that can, in the human world, give you excuses and give you reason to procrastinate or give you reason to not do things. But at the same time, if you give your space to not do those things, are you being divinely orchestrated and pushed further along? So it's an interesting question. There's only one person, and I can't remember who it was, who recently said something on a podcast that I listened to that made me slightly change my mind about that. And it was actually the free will is the different timelines. So it's just you showing up on one and you showing up on other, but then it becomes so blurred at one point that it doesn't even matter anymore.
Okay.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting perspective. But when you truly surrender to that, this universe is so divinely created that not just this universe, but all of the alternate realities or all of the different realms, I don't even know, there's so many different words and terminologies. Life becomes so much more easier. Like, you don't have any stress. It's really like, just like, okay, cool. How is this speaking to me right now? What am I learning in this moment? How is this showing up in my body? How am I embodying what I want to be in the future? And a big thing that gets missed in spirituality for me is the embodiment of what you are learning or what you believe, because your mind is one thing, your soul is another, but your body is a whole other element. And if we start talking about DNA and epigenetics, it is also scientifically proven that certain things happen within your body, and the biochemistry and how it reacts and how it stores trauma and emotions play a vital role into how you're showing up in the world. And the part where it really started sinking for me and allowing me to really make different shifts in my reality was that embodiment piece, and really understanding it is about mind, body, and soul. And the body doesn't mean exercising. Now, that is a part of it, and movement is definitely a part of it, but it's about understanding how your body is speaking to you and being grounded within that body, so that when we are going through these transitions, these evolutions, these expansions, you're able to take that container, this container that we're in, you're able to hold whatever it is that is next for you.
Which brings us to the word authenticity, because that was the word that was going to come back to. Authenticity is very key here, I think, and I love that. And I understand that you now help people to find their best or right, or however you want to phrase it, trajectory, and to find their path in life. And you link spirituality, authenticity, and entrepreneurship. So, which is intriguing. How do they connect?
I honestly don't think that there can be a difference. And I know that sounds maybe a bit crazy or out there, but if you're truly showing up as your authentic self, you cannot not be spiritual, regardless of whether you believe in spirituality, because that is the whole essence of spirituality. And the same with entrepreneurship. If you want to achieve certain levels of success and purpose, again, you have to be aligned with yourself and what that means. Now, that can change. And it's really a question we do not ask ourselves enough. We should be taught this from a very young age. Who am I and how do I want to show up? That they are really the only two questions that we need to know the answer to. And for me, I was so lost. I didn't know who I was at all. I was an alcoholic. I was trying to be a cocaine addict, but my brain was the 1% that used to send to sleep. I was just grinding. I was working like 17 hours a day. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating good. I was being a dick all of the time because I was in this victim mode and I didn't know how to not be a dick. And I was just showing up in a way that I didn't even like myself, and I didn't even know who I was. And when I truly stripped that back, and it's taken me a couple of years to get there, and when I truly stripped that back, I realized I just want to lead with my heart. And I never understood what that meant before. And I used to hear people say it, and I really wanted to resonate with them, but I couldn't feel it. And this is where I'm talking about the embodiment and the authenticity, because when you feel whatever is true for you in your body, and when it really lands, you'll feel it with your whole being. And your nervous system will be calm. There will be no fight or flight response. And the way that you show up is so different. It's such an expression of yourself that you cannot not be anything else. And then whether that's in entrepreneurship or spirituality, everything just starts to align, because you are being who you are meant to be. And when you can truly work that out, and I actually don't think we ever get to the complete bottom of that in life, but I think it's a never-ending question, because as you learn more, and as you grow more, and as you interact with different humans and have different experiences, that's going to change and evolve. And one of the things that landed with me the most recently, I was at the Mind Valley Future Human Summit in Dubai, and someone said to me, they were like, are you a listener that listens to be inspired or to be influenced? And how many of the speakers do you think are inspiring or here to influence? That question changed my world and blew my mind. I was like, wow. I've never heard that before. And it's so true. There's a profound difference. And I challenge to ask your audience, like, are you listening to be inspired, or are you listening to be influenced? Because I realized I was listening to be influenced for so long. And only really towards the back end of last year, I wanted to start showing up to inspire. And also I want to be inspired. Like, I want that amazing feeling that the feeling of inspires brings. And it's such a profound statement and question, and that really helped me drop into my authenticity even more. And the more we take these things, and the thing is, you could not resonate with anything that I say, and that's amazing, fantastic, because you're realizing that you're not resonating with me. Brilliant. And we're not supposed to resonate with everyone, but take the people that you do start to resonate and then turn it into your own. How does that show up for you? What does that mean to you? How does that make you feel? How does that mean to you to show up in the world? Everything is a sign. Everything is there to help you expand. And the more that you start to read the world and listen to the world and listen to what is being told to you, the more you can align yourself with your authentic self. Yeah. And then you'll be better in business. You'll have a deeper connection with your soul. So for me, that's why the three are interlaced.
And authenticity, or, well, you said listen with your heart, and I totally agree there. And that also is connected with intuition. So intuition is, if you're intuitive, when you intuit things, you actually feel it either in your heart or in your body in some way. So as you say, you have to listen to your body much. We're not used to doing that in the Western world. We think we're gonna think up everything with our brains, and if our stomach or our guts or our heart are telling us something, we're feeling something, it's just an annoyance, or we go to the doctor and ask, what's wrong with me? Well, they should be able to say, you're just feeling things. You're just intuitive. I wonder what the patients would say then.
Yeah. This is such an important point. And like something for me, for so long, I just felt numb, and I really thought that there was something wrong with me. And it's not that I wasn't able to feel. It was, I was feeling too much and wasn't able to express that. And we aren't given the right to express our emotions. We aren't, it's not the normal It's like if a kid's having a temper tantrum, we can't deal with that in case we're being judged in the superstore or whatever it is. And the connection to the heart is so much more powerful than the connection to the brain. This has been scientifically proven over and over again. Also, the heart resonance and that biofield that you were talking about before is so much further with the heart, with the brain.
Oh yes, I think it's about 100
this
times
is
stronger.
where,
Like that. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Speaking about authenticity, the purported channeled extraterrestrial entity Bashar has said at some point that authenticity is actually more important than love, which sounds a bit strong, but maybe he's right. Would you agree? I guess you can't actually express love
because
fully
how can you
or feel it fully unless you are fully authentic in the first place.
Exactly, because you're wearing a mask, and if you're wearing a mask, that other person can never truly receive you, and you can never truly receive them. So the more authentic that you show up, the more you are able to embody love. Because if you're constantly wearing different masks or constantly thinking about how someone else should feel or how you should be in that relationship or in that regards to love, then it can never be a true authentic expression of love. So, and this is why that question of who am I? How do I want to show up is so important, because once you can truly, and it start to embody your authentic self, then that love from everything, it's not just from a divine partner, it's all of your relationships become so much more deeper and stronger. Even your relationship to nature, your relationship to your business, your relationship to your food, your body, everything becomes stronger because that authentic relationship that you have with yourself becomes truth, and that truth is the thing that magnetizes everything else. It is the thing that allows you to show up. It's the way that the universe then reacts to you and allows you to manifest whatever you want. Now, this is something that's not told in Law of Attraction. It's not told by all these coaches because it doesn't fit into a marketing scheme. And this is where, like, some of the mindset and that world annoys me in truth, because they don't get this piece. If you're truly showing up as your authentic self, you don't even need to market yourself, because people are going to naturally be attracted to you, because that's where then the love resonance comes in. So for me, I agree with Bashar on that. I think that the only way to love is through authenticity.
Yeah. Wonderful. So we're not living in crucial times in a deep philosophical sense, as you said, but still, I think many people feel that it's a bit turbulent right now, and it has been for some time. But I also am a bit irritated with this constant, media theme or meme that these are turbulent times. These are dramatic times. There's a lot of conflict. There's a crisis. The word crisis is used so often, and by politicians as well, because they have an agenda behind that, of course, because they purport to tell people that I'm the one who can solve this. I can save you, but there is a crisis. So anyway, I still think that many people, whether it's true or not, they have this impression that it's messy. Let's put it that way. It's messy out there. And would you agree? For number one? Yes and no. Okay, let's just ask the follow-up question, and then you can answer the whole package here. So if it is messy, and if people find it messy and turbulent, how should they handle that? How do you handle it if you feel a need to handle it in any particular way? And how would you recommend that people approach it if they feel this way?
So I'm going to say one thing here. So Mother Teresa would only go to a peace rally. She would never go to an anti-war rally. Now, the reason behind them is the energy in one and the energy in another. So the energy towards the anti-war rally promotes war. The energy towards a peace rally promotes peace. Now, a lot of people believe that they need to go to an anti-war rally to create peace. And this is where there is the mess in the world. People are in crisis mode because they don't allow themselves to have an opinion. They don't allow themselves to trust their intuition. They don't allow their voice to be heard. They don't allow their own authenticity to shine through. And it's a fear of not being received, not being loved, and self-worth. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different modalities and formalities and programs that we have constructed up until this point. And that comes from environment, that comes from social media, that comes from parenting, that comes from a whole range of 100 different things. And if you feel like you are in crisis, I'm going to go back to the Jim Carrey quote. It's because your avatar is sick of playing a character it no longer wants to be.
Yeah.
Find out who you want to be. There is nothing wrong with reinventing yourself. There is nothing wrong with making a change in your life. Do what is best for you in the moment. That is the only way to be true to yourself. Whether that is a day of self-care, whether that is maybe not keeping some of the relationships in your life, some friendships. There is always going to be an evolution period, and change seems scary, but change is inevitable. That is the only thing that exists on this planet, is that change is inevitable. So
that's the only constant.
Yeah, it's the only constant. So when it feels scary, just check in with yourself why it feels scary, because that is also something that you have the ability to do that we don't know that we can. Like, why does this feel scary for me? You can have conversations with yourself, and your body will tell you, your mind will tell you, and your soul will tell you, and you'll probably get 3 different answers. And those, working out what those 3 answers mean, is the key to your happiness. So it can feel messy, can feel like chaos, but through the chaos is always clarity. So just always know that you are perfectly aligned to where you're supposed to be now. You are so full of love, so much love inside of you, whether you can feel it or not. There is so many people around you that love you. I love you. Like, just believe in yourself enough to believe in yourself.
Wonderful, Kirsty. Thank you for saying that. I think many people appreciate that and have use for those wise words and that advice. So before we wrap this up, it's been a wonderful conversation. Truly, I hope we can do this again sometime.
I've really enjoyed it.
There's kind of a host of topics to cover, apart from the ones that we have already talked about. I have a few questions here in my little notes here, but that I haven't even begun thinking about. Doesn't matter. It just the important thing is that the conversation flows. So now, what are you doing in Bali? And you just recently were in Panama for a few years, and what were you building there? You were creating something. Can you tell us about what your plans are now? What are you building?
Yeah, so in Panama, I'm working with Chris, who is the founder of the Conscious Island. So we have 405 acres in Bocas del Toro. So half the island is still ran by an indigenous tribe, and the idea is to build a conscious community. Now, the community itself will be over the water villas, and then the central location will be an event space, a wellness village, working with the old and the new. So we're so blessed to have the indigenous on the island. They still work with the land, they still understand the plants, and what each plant represents and does, and how that can help us. For example, lemongrass or coca or cacao. So their speciality and their medicine is cacao. So they use that anytime someone is sick or has a something mental or energetic. So that's a 4-day process that they go through with the medicine of cacao, which is truly beautiful. So the idea is also have a space that works with like bioresonance, but also has the apothecary of the indigenous. So it's really blending the two worlds, the old and the new, and how we can amalgamate that as one unit. So I mean, for me, this I used the word magic before. This project is completely magic. So the founder went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat, and in his meditation saw that he was going to build a conscious community. And he went home, and in 18 months, 18 of his neighbors sold the land adjacent to his, and he was able to acquire the money for
Wow.
it. Yeah, like that kind of level of magic, I'm in. I don't even need to tell me what it's about. I'm all in. Like that is insane.
That's how the universe works when you truly, believe in your capacities.
Yeah, and then I actually found out the project because I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat when he was in London, and then I got added to this WhatsApp group, and then the leader of the WhatsApp group, she was doing like fireside chats with people, and she'd heard about the project, and she did a fireside chat with them, and I just saw the word Panama, and I didn't even see the chat, and then I was just like, who else knows about Panama from London? And I was like, this is so random. Like most of my friends don't even know in the world where it was. I didn't even know where it was when I moved there, and I was just like, right. So I looked it up, and I saw Chris, and I messaged Chris straight away, and I was like, I'm in Panama. I need to be part of this project. And yeah, it's super beautiful. We're still greenfield. We're just kind of in the funding round at the moment. So we're just in the process of building. So yeah, the concept changed slightly. We were going to be a much larger community, and we actually found out that most people like the idea of a conscious community more than actually living there. So we changed the concept a little bit, and now it's going to be more a place where people can come for kind of like a long short term. So 3 months at a time of the year, come and experience different retreats and modalities and feel of the land, and allow it to fit in with their lifestyle.
Mm. So where can people go if they want to find out more about that, the Conscious Island project and your work and you?
Yes. So the Conscious Island is actually Tainawari, which means beautiful life in the indigenous language. So it actually means to encompass a beautiful life. There's no real direct translation. So that's www.tainawari.com. I'll send you the link so you can
links
add
in
it
the description box.
Amazing. And then if anyone wants to reach out to me, I am on LinkedIn. I've given myself a social media ban at the moment. That was a 90-day challenge I gave myself. So I'm only available on LinkedIn at the moment, but you will be able to find me on Instagram as well.
So how did that go? How was that? How's that been? The detox?
It's been good, to be honest. Yeah, it's been refreshing because I don't know anything. I literally, my world is my world. I don't know anything what's going on in the outer world.
That's why you don't know about the messiness
here and there,
I'm just kidding.
No, that's what I live in my own world. So yeah, all those crazy things going on in the West is
because that's also the thing, because most of the things that's happening in everybody's life is actually not that dramatic, and we have this impression of sorry for interrupting, but we have this impression of a messy world and a dangerous world because we read the news, we listen to the news too much. That's a big problem.
Yeah,
and it's 24/7.
100%. And I haven't listened to the news for years. I stopped listening to the news about 8 years ago. Even when I go and visit my mum and dad are very old school. They like the news, 6 p.m., 10 p.m.
10 o'clock
And
news, yeah.
if I'm in the house,
Easy.
it's like, yeah, guys, we're not listening to the news. And the compromise is they'll watch the 10 o'clock news if I'm not around, and we can't have, if I will not have dinner with them if the 6 p.m. news is on. So yeah.
I think it's healthy, at least for a period, or you can find your own level there. But I mean, I've been working as a journalist for 25 years, so I was kind of,
Yeah, exactly. You were very different.
marinated in this news, what to call it, the tumbler of news. So been there, done that. But I still kind of want to have these little, notifications and stuff like that. But I don't listen to the radio. 10 years ago, the first thing I did in the morning was to put on the radio and listen to the radio. Was like a background noise, and also evening news on TV and morning paper, sometimes 2 morning papers. It's crazy. And it's the same, they're churning the same pieces of news around all the time anyway. So it's really pointless. So I'm glad I'm out of that, but I haven't done that level of a detox yet. I might do for a period of time.
I would love. I don't know if we've got time now, but I would love to know your transition from like an amazing journalist to having these amazing metaphysical, existential conversations and opening up this container to your audience in the world.
Yeah, maybe we can do it on your podcast. You're starting a podcast, aren't you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll just have it as
is
an
yes
idea.
right now. It was supposed to be started by now, but yes, we can have the opposite way around, and yes, you can come on.
Kirsty, thank you so much for being a guest on Mind the Shift, and good luck with all your, laudable endeavor out there, helping people finding their true path. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing this wisdom with the world.
Hello, my friends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit that like button and share the video with your friends. Please support the channel if you can. I appreciate all the support. You can become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or you can make a one-off donation via PayPal if you wish. All the links are in the description box below. Thank you.